afternoon, everyone. It's indeed a pleasure to connect with all of you in this forum. So here I am to talk about my story, my threads of connection, and something which I have benefited from my threads of connection. I would like to share it across as a small talk here. So I come from the consulting world, and I sit in a sweet intersection of two extreme worlds, if I have to say. One is the cutthroat world of consulting. The other is the compassionate world of social service in the domain of education. But two things are very common for both my worlds. One is the knowledge, the other one is the people network. Because without the strong threads of connection with different people, you cannot survive in both the worlds, be it consulting or be it in the social space. And it has been a very critical aspect for me to be successful in both these domains. And that's what I would like to bring across here, the story of the knowledge and the people network with few little examples from my personal life. I also would like to connect one more important piece of information, which I always share it across with the CXOs through my consulting career. We always say this statement whenever we go for any kind of engagement with the clients. When we talk about analytics, we say right information with the right people in the right time will actually help them to take the right decisions. Now, this statement doesn't hold good only for the corporate world. It holds good for the entire society, the entire population, because each one of us as humans, we take decisions based on information. And if you get the right information from the right people at the right time, definitely would have taken a lot of right decisions, isn't it? Anyway, if you notice, you and me are sitting here based on the choices that we have taken. And the choices are influenced by the thread of connections that we hold, and definitely the information that they have shared over a period of time that has been an influencing factor in this whole case. Now, I would like to share a bit of experiments that have happened in my life, a bit of learnings from my life, where I've realized that this thread of connection and how the information is disseminated here through the thread of connection can be an influencing factor. That's what I'm going to discuss in the next few minutes. So let me start my story from my school days. I studied in a small town, Trichy, which is a tier 2 town in Tamil Nadu. I secured 97% in my board exam. And of course, when you secure that marks, coming from a middle class family, you're always expected to focus more on marks. And it's always like this, right? If you don't get good marks, you don't get the good college. If you don't get the good college, you cannot survive well in the society. The same kind of setup I have come from. With 97% in the board exams, I was looking at an opportunity to study in some of the best institutes in this country. But having been a student in a tier 2 town, with the help of the limited connections that I had in Trichy, though I applied for top institutes, unfortunately, I could not fill the application forms well. I could not fill the courses well, the right courses I could not choose. And I did not get through the top institutions across the country, starting from BITS to IITs. That's when I realized knowledge is an asset. And knowledge is not available with everyone. Knowledge is not easily accessible for everyone. And for you to gain knowledge, you need to have strong threads of connection. The people network you should have. And I'm sure you would have a story too, similar story from your school and college days, where maybe a bit of critical information at the right time might have helped you to take the right decisions. Then from there, I moved on to the college. I studied in a government college. A college which has given me the strong foundation for the corporate career ahead, for my life ahead. And after joining the college, I realized that I'm much better off in the pyramid when it comes to knowledge and guidance. Whatever I got in tier 2 town is something which my friends from tier 3 rural areas and villages, they are not able to get at. Again, the problem is the threads of connection. That's when I realized maybe threads of connection has an important role to disseminate the information across the pyramid. Of course, this was back in 2005. Today, look at it. We have social networks. We are all connected to everyone. We are able to disseminate information, voice out our opinions, share our express our feelings on any topic relatively better. But if you notice, still, if you look across the pyramid, this is still a broader challenge. The people network and the threads of connection across a society is not able to disseminate the information, and still information or knowledge is an asset and it is not available with everyone in the society. And this was a problem which I was thinking about, and I was wondering whether people network can help us to solve a problem. Is there a way that we can look at using the people network to disseminate information better, to share it, to create an ecosystem out of it? So that's when my story with NGOs started. I started supporting different NGOs. Gold Art Foundation is one of them from Chennai, where I started supporting kids in the school along with all my friends to get the right guidance and knowledge at the right time for the students. I don't know whether you believe in this philosophy, but I strongly believe in this philosophy, the philosophy of alchemist. When you want something, the whole universe conspires in helping you to achieve it, isn't it? This is where the invisible threads of connection from different quarters came in to help my students gain better insights about the opportunities that existed for them. You may wonder how. Simple. Take IIFT, for example, or take any top education institution like IITs and IIMs. There is an inherent culture of sharing knowledge through threads of connection. So for example, in your case, in IIFT's case, or in any education institution case, there is a strong ecosystem of people created, ecosystem of connections, alumni, corporates, industries. So almost everyone coming together with government. And there is invitation to all these people to come and share knowledge with the students who are sitting in the classrooms. It happens through guest lectures, it happens through alumni talks, industry interactions, including TED talks like this. So there is a structured way of disseminating information through the threads of connection, and there is a design that has been put across, a systemic design that has been put in place for the purpose. I'm sure everyone who comes to your campus has a story to share. Even an alum with 2 years experience to a 20 years experience CEO on the market. We have got to learn something from everyone, isn't it? This was something which was lacking across the pyramid, especially the bottom part of the pyramid. That's where our NGO work started. In Gold Art Foundation, we created a small ecosystem, similar one. Right after my MBA from IIM Lucknow, I realized that, okay, this is something which is happening in a more structured, systemic way. And there is a huge ecosystem of connections, people who are supporting. And can we create a same setup for the larger strata of the society? So we brought in that principle. We came to the small ecosystems. We created small ecosystems for the slums and other places in Chennai. Places where the threads of connection that we could create, small ecosystems which we could create, could exchange ideas, disseminate knowledge. So this particular threads of connection included counselors, trained counselors, corporate employees, mentors, government agencies, other NGOs, students. All of them came together. They had a platform, they had a small system to share their ideas, exchange their ideas. And our connections across companies visited the centers, the tuition centers that we were running. They shared experiences on how they chose their career paths, confusions that they went through. The people connection really helped in sharing a bit more about what is happening in the outside world, widening the scope, widening the thought process of the budding kids from different areas. So different students connected with different mentors in this process. And this is how we found that, okay, yes, a systemic way of disseminating information can happen in the society through people network, through the threads of connection that we can create. And I'm sure all of you will agree with one statement, which I'm going to say. Your network of connections and relationships actually determine the aspirations that you have, isn't it? The knowledge exchange that happens with your thread of connections determines your goals, your success over a period of time. Don't you agree? The same thing happened in our NGO. I still remember the story of how a student who joined a diploma college few years back in 2013, he dropped out in 3 weeks because he was not mentally prepared. He got the marks that he wanted to get into the college, but he was not mentally prepared to move out of the school and then join a diploma college. And today, thanks to this ecosystem that we have created, we have students with more confidence, thanks to the wonderful threads of connection that are supporting this whole system. We have encouraged and empowered people to take up even PG courses post-UG. The confidence, the mental strength of the students have gone up thanks to this network of people. And the ecosystem makes a real big difference here. So this is one story I wanted to share. And while I was growing older, On top of this NGO work, thanks to all the experience that I could get from consulting, mentorship, and traveling across different countries, I developed a broader view of the same challenge, that is people network and knowledge dissemination. Is it, I realized one aspect, maybe over a period of time, this knowledge transition, is it happening through the threads of network that we have created? The democratization of information or the dissemination of knowledge that we are talking about through people network, is it only our generational problem? Not really. It's a problem over generations, isn't it? So one step back, if you look at it, are we able to transfer this information, disseminate this information, which people have accumulated over a period of time across generations? When I started wondering, like a typical consultant, I started looking at it in the form of a framework, the horizontals and the verticals. So I saw these threads of connection and knowledge dissemination also in the same structure. I saw that horizontals means I started wondering, like horizontals are like, it's over time, the same time period that we are living in. How do we disseminate information with people of our generation? Do we feel the thread of connection where the information is getting shared? The story that I shared across, Goldart Foundation story, is a successful story in this step, and that is one small technique in this process to establish it as part of the design. Maybe we need to look at a larger systemic change from the point of view to make it happen continuously so that it's not getting lost as a small success story. As a society, can we look at wider adoption of such cases so that the information can be shared through people network, people sharing knowledge, people mentoring people to create a wider, broader range of intelligent people? That is horizontal network. Our generation people, how they are exchanging knowledge through threads of connections. Verticals, that's where I look at across generations over a period of time. Have you noticed we have a wealth of information that has been accumulated over a period of time across generations? What is the thread of connection between our ancestors and us? There are a lot of customs, rituals, traditions, conventions. We may use different terms to call it out, but in a way, those are all some setups that have been created by our ancestors to transfer the knowledge, to disseminate the knowledge which they have gathered, the wisdom that they have gathered over a period of time to us. Of course, not every rituals are scientific in nature. Not every ritual may be relevant to what we are doing today or what is in this context. We need to apply sense, and then we need to look at what is relevant and what is not relevant. That is definitely there. Let me not deviate from that. Maybe I'll give you a simple example to make you understand this better. Have you heard of multi-generation living? A new buzzword in the Western society. A lot of CEOs are talking about it. A lot of celebrities are talking about multi-generation living. How grandmothers, grandparents can stay with the kids in one home, and how is it helpful for the kids to grow better? And how is it helping each other on managing the emotional balance within the family? So people are talking about pros and cons in Western society. But what is multi-generation living? Is it not the conventional family setup that we used to have in our societies? The family became joint family. The joint family became nuclear family. And now we are using a modern term again, multi-generation living, to connect the dots back to the family. So maybe we lost some kind of a knowledge or the wisdom that has been created over a period of time in the knowledge transfer that happened through the threads of connection across generations. Maybe we might have missed it out. Another good example is cooking. So how do we learn cooking? First time when you learn cooking or when you tried cooking, whom did you contact? I'm sure this generation might have used YouTube videos and recipe books to pick up cooking, no doubt about it. But usually the cooking is something which we learn in the kitchen from our previous generations, isn't it? Our parents learn it from the grandparents, grandparents from the great grandparents, and somewhere the thread of knowledge was passed through the connections over generations. In fact, if I have to remind you, food as medicine, the conventional wisdom which we had over generations and implemented in our kitchens is slowly getting lost here. Have you noticed that? In fact, our food is medicine. The kind of ingredients that we add in our food, why we are adding it, there is a purpose to every ingredient that is there. The purpose of adding it has been lost in the knowledge transfer, and maybe that is the reason we are not able to appreciate the aspect, the food, the habits that we have. Everything has changed. Now the food is different from medicine. On a lighter note, it has become medicine after food, thanks to our lifestyle. So one thing we need to realize, the knowledge is getting transferred, conventional wisdom is getting transferred over generations, and we have incremental innovations happening in every generation. So conventions, traditions, rituals, whatever that has been followed by our parents, ancestors, is there a way that we can look at it as threads of connections and try to look beyond the obvious and try to see something more and carry that through our threads of connections? That's something I would like to share it across. So when we lose the threads of connections across generations, we lose this knowledge transfer, and slowly the perception, like for example, we start looking at facts as beliefs and beliefs as superstitions over a period of time. If the threads of connections are not transferring the knowledge over a period of time, we forget the cause and the effect relationship. All it remains is the action and not the intent behind the actions. Maybe the conventional wisdom over the period of time, if it has been passed through generations, the threads of connections, maybe today the problems that we are facing with nature, the conflicts with nature, could have been resolved or would have been better. The threads of connection our ancestors held with nature created an harmonious living with every creature and nature. Maybe it is time for us to reconnect our past with the previous generations and learn through the threads of connections that they have left for us.